Hi everybody, and welcome at the Delaware session on how to solve data challenges with our Fast BI solution. A look at some challenges that our customers are facing. CIOs are struggling with the rising complexity of data management as information floods in from various sources. In parallel, CEOs, they seek valuable insights, actionable insights. Integrating non-SAP data with SAP data becomes more and more important as well. And then the shift to cloud ERP, SAP cloud ERP, also requires more attention for keeping the core clean. And additionally, swift implementation of new technologies presents a major challenge in achieving rapid go-to-market and fast value delivery. All of this can result in the conclusion that data really is the new gold. Or is it? Are we missing something? I think we are, because data itself doesn't really hold a lot of value. We have quite a lot of customers that have been gathering a bunch of data over the past years in some kind of data lake, but they figured out quickly that without any context, this data really doesn't give us any information. So you can conclude maybe that the information hidden in the data is then indeed the new gold. Maybe, but what are you with information if you don't have any insights? So we are really looking for insights inside of the information. And then even insights themselves don't give us any added value, because if you have fantastic insights and you don't really take corporate business actions on top of those insights, it becomes a bit let's say useless as well. So let's try to tackle this conundrum, this predicament that we are in finding a solution that gives us actionable insights on the information hidden in the data in our enterprise. Let's have a look at a theoretical solution first. A theoretical solution to address this data challenge, you really need a comprehensive solution, a comprehensive data warehouse that allows you to seamlessly integrate data, so to do the data ingestion, to consume pre-built content. Nowadays, of course, it should be scalable and secure, so most likely we will resort to a cloud alternative of the solution. You need to be able to integrate with a multitude of visualization tools, off of which SAP also has a very nice solution here, SAP Analytics Cloud, which my colleague Arthur will tell you about later. And then, of course, you need to support modern technologies, both built-in, and you should be open to adopt modern technologies, to integrate with modern technologies, to account for a speedy adoption of these new tech. This is an overview of the warehouse itself, but let's have one closer look at the data, the different streams within this architecture. So at the bottom, you have the data sources, which will always be relevant. You will always have data coming from somewhere. Then you have a need to ingest this data within a platform. And we don't immediately talk about a platform. First, we use a landing zone. This is a separate storage for your raw data. Then you will have the platform that will allow you to model this data, to process this raw data. And then the processing of the raw data also works as a servicing agent for the data to be consumed in the final layer, the serve and consume layer. Important to know is that when the consumption of the data, it's not only for reporting, for visualization. You can also use this to explore the data. You can use it to build services on top of, and you can even use it to link it with a data science. It goes without saying that governance through all of these streams is also super crucial. So let's have a closer look at how we did this at Delaware and how SAP provides a solution for our 5 streams within the data platform. For this, I would like to give the word to Arthur.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Indeed, it is now time to take a more closer look at the Delaware solution, a more concrete solution towards a theoretical framework that you have explained earlier, that addresses all the challenges that were explained in the introduction as well. At Delaware, we created a fast BI solution, which is some kind of a template offering that offers out-of-the-box reporting and analytical capabilities that were built on top of SAP's S/4HANA ERP system. It contains prepackaged data models and dashboards, which allow a customer, a user, to start off right away with the basic stuff, so that you not have to lose time in implementing all the basic tables and models that every use case actually needs for any situation. It is built by combining best practices, and over multiple years of experience here at Delaware, we, for example, have come up with some kind of a framework that really gradually implements a certain reporting flow for a project. It is an open platform that is fully supported by APIs, which means that it can connect to any source, but it can also output the models towards any visualization tool possible. And we definitely share this vision with SAP on scalability, being future-proof and being open towards the world, so that you create some kind of a robust solution that is definitely there to stay in the future. We call our solution the Delaware Fast BI solution, but let's take a more close look at what's under the hood. Typically, as Jonathan already mentioned, you will start with some source information, and you want to replicate this information to get it inside of some kind of a warehouse, typically a data warehouse. You want to prepare some things there to make sure that you end up with a nice visualization in a reporting tool, a dashboard, to really get information out of your data, as Jonathan mentioned earlier, to get then the right actions on top of these insights. Typically, for our Fast BI solution, you can connect to any source. These can be flat files, these can be ERP system data, CRM system data, just anything available, both SAP and non-SAP data can be integrated here. In terms of replication, we use the SAP HANA Smart Data Integration tool, typically referred to as SDI. This means that we can replicate and really store the data inside of our data warehouse. And the data warehouse of choice for our solution is SAP Datasphere. This is built upon the SAP HANA Cloud solution, which makes it a very strong data warehouse in the cloud. For visualization purposes, we opted for SAP Analytics Cloud, the reporting tool of SAP, but you can also use tools like SAP Analysis for Microsoft Office, for example. Other vendors are possible as well to connect to. And very important to note here is that it is a fully cloud managed offering, so that it means it is very open, it is robust, and it is future-proof. So now that we see a little bit of the flow and the overall architecture, let's look at really what's inside and what is included inside of our Delaware Fast BI template offering. As we mentioned already, it is built upon SAP Datasphere and SAP Analytics Cloud, and it contains these technical accelerators that allow you to start off right away with the basic stuff. Moreover, we have integrated Delaware Business Insights. These are typical insights coming from various experts of our company with multiple years of experience that really understand your business, understand sectors, different projects, and the KPIs that come with them. We will talk a little bit later about real business questions in the part where we talk about modules. There's also a building block governance and best practices, because as I've already mentioned, we have created a best practice framework to do BI reporting. This has been constructed over years, where we really build some kind of a logical flow where every block inside of the flow is customizable and every block has its own purpose. And this results in a model that is very performant, so that your dashboards not only work well and have the correct data, but that they are also very performant, very fast in use. Of course, you can extend, or we together can extend the basic flows with customer-specific flows. And these customizations are often very important to go from the essential things towards very case-specific situations. Certain KPIs, certain business questions that are very relevant or important for your business to be answered in a report. There's also a data monitor included, because we've seen in the past that Data monitoring is very important at the start already. Typically, it is something that is implemented during the project, but being on top of a certain error, being on top of a certain replication problem in the beginning is very important to make sure that you do not lose time and that you do not miss out on any important issues. So I've talked already a little bit about modules. You can also see these modules as a line of businesses, LOBs as we call them. Typical LOBs that are included in the Fast BI solution of Delaware are sales and distribution, finance and controlling, inventory, logistics and procurement, production, quality and maintenance. And there's also a fifth one, intelligence master data. Let's maybe take a look at each of them and really think of what important business questions do they try to answer, or which questions are already included in our offering. So for a sales manager, for example, a typical business question that he or she may ask himself or herself is, how many discounts did I grant? What are my top selling products? Who are my top selling customers? Who is selling more or who is selling less? These are typical questions that a sales manager wants to be answered. For finance and controlling, a typical controller or a finance manager will know the modules that we have included in our template offering here as well. Think, for example, of the general ledger, accounts payable, accounts receivable, also your profit and loss statements, just to make sure that you, right off the bat, have an idea on how is my P&L doing? Are we doing good or bad in terms of liquidity? All those type of questions. For inventory, logistics and procurement, a typical question could be is, how is my inventory doing? How many open purchase orders do we still have for products? And what is their confirmed delivery date? And typical questions around warehousing can be answered here. Our final real module or line of business, let's say, production, quality and maintenance, contains questions for example, quality. How many defects are linked to a certain quality notification? In terms of production, what is the open backlog of my orders, and which orders are being taken care of, which are still open? In terms of maintenance, how many hours were actually spent on maintenance work, and comparing the budget towards the actuals here. Did we plan or did we budget for the right hours to spend on it? And those typical questions should be answered in this module. And then finally, there is also a fifth module, you could call it. It's about intelligence master data, because we've seen that typical reporting hiccups occur when there is lack or inconsistencies in your master data. And we want to be on top of it right away. Start off with having good data will lead towards better reporting, better dashboards, better insights, and eventually better actions that can be taken on these insights. Of course, this technical solution was quite a mouthful. That is why we have created a blueprint, which is a very extensive document that really explains into detail the whole solution design, the architecture, which sources were included, what is the architecture data platform behind it, how do we visualize stuff, etc. But it also contains these modules and these business questions, like what typical questions do we have already included for sales and delivery, for finance and controlling, etc. All those measures and dimensions are already included here. And the most important thing to take away here is that by reading the blueprint, you already discover what you are getting with the Fast BI solution. And you can also immediately tackle the ideas of the customizations, like which things are not yet in place and should we customize together in order to make it a successful implementation project. So this was a little bit the story about the Delaware Fast BI solution, the more technical solution towards facing our challenges. And maybe it is time now for Jonathan to explain you in a few minutes what are the most important things to take away. Why is this now important for you as a customer, this whole story, or even as a SAP implementer or SAP partner? What can you take away from this whole story?
Thank you, Arthur, for this perfect explanation on the insights into our Fast BI solution. Let's have a look what's in it for you, the customer. And later on, we will have a look at what's in it for the SAP partner. With the out-of-the-box pre-built content, you will experience an increased speed to value, and you will not be going through a development lifecycle to get a data platform or a report up and running. Because of the nature of the SAP Datasphere solution, it will allow you to consume SAP data and non-SAP data. A nice use case we often see is combining sensor data from your production environment with sales or production data from your ERP environment. Getting better data, getting better insights will really help you make better data-based decisions. Another one I would like to emphasize is you will experience improved efficiency through streamlined data management. And this is one that is rather important because it also has a financial aspect. The more data is created throughout your enterprise, the more structure is needed, because if you can manage your data better, you have a better view on which data exists, and you can much easier also get insights on this data. For example, if somebody has an Excel file on their local computer that they used to maintain some master data somewhere, if you can get this into a structured system like a data warehouse, you're also capable of managing this centrally, and the person will no longer spend additional time each week or each month to manage their own Excel files. Of course, with additional data insights comes an organic competitive advantage. If you can make quicker, better decisions than your competitor, you are ahead of the herd. And then the increased company flexibility for unexpected events also is out-of-the-box result of the Fast BI solution. For example, there is a ship somewhere stuck into a canal and you have products waiting. You can make good analysis of your vendors, for example, and find a correct vendor in a speedy manner that will also be able to deliver you the goods via a different route. Now let's have a look at the vendor, the SAP partner. There what we did is we created 3 pillars of added value. The first one being acceleration. The second one is the SAP ERP vision. And the third one, of course, is innovation. Let's have a look at the acceleration. What do we mean by this? We mean that with great data comes great integration responsibility, which means at some point you will need to ingest data from a very unique data source, and you will find yourself in need of an integration platform. Luckily, within the SAP portfolio, there is also a solution, SAP Integration Suite. And of course, this has out-of-the-box native connectivity with Datasphere as well, with Datasphere. And of course, this has out-of-the-box connectivity with SAP Datasphere as well. Additionally, SAP's Datasphere can also be leveraged to build transactional applications against, in comparison to a couple of years ago, where we would have a data warehouse next to a transactional database in the cloud. Now the Datasphere solution embodies the 2 capabilities. And then lastly, in the public cloud world of today, customers get free CPEA credits, Cloud Platform Enterprise Agreement credits, that they get when buying licenses, Cloud ERP licenses. And the SAP Datasphere solution will also kickstart the consumption of these licenses, avoiding them to be unused throughout the years. The second pillar is the vision. SAP has a fantastic vision on what ERP should be the coming years. And with the public cloud solution, which is more a SaaS alternative, you need to conform to the keep the core clean principles as an SAP partner. And with SAP Datasphere, you should not worry about this when you are proposing solution architectures at your customer. Meaning it really is the industry best practice in an SAP environment. And then the third pillar, which is innovation. It hasn't been mentioned yet in the presentation, but generative AI will of course be embedded natively inside of the SAP Datasphere solution. And it will allow partners to really leverage this in a very organic manner. Then, because SAP Datasphere really is a strategic solution for SAP, they decided to really heavily invest in it. So what they will do is they will create more and more out-of-the-box pre-made content for other line of business solutions. For example, extended planning and analysis, meaning if you have Datasphere and you add a line of business solution, you will automatically have the line of business solution context inside of your existing Datasphere solution, meaning the rollout of valuable solutions will be much, much, much more efficient, and you will spend much less time developing, testing, etc., etc. Additionally, all of these organically added values by SAP will also make sure that you will be able to add business value in your customer's landscape throughout the years. I would like to thank you very much for attending our session. I would like to thank my co-speaker Arthur for his nice explanation on our Fast BI solution. And lastly, I would also like to thank SAP for the opportunity for us to speak on such a fantastic event. Have a nice day.